A panel in Addis Ababa honors the late Prime Minister Meles Zenawi. Somalia gets new taxi service, a sign of changing times. Those were the headlines. Hello and welcome to ETV News with me, Rugbe Hans. The late Prime Minister Meles Zenawi has been honored at a panel held in Addis Ababa organized by Dimtz Weyane Radio on Wednesday. The panel has assessed the role of Meles in the finance and economic affairs of the nation, the focus he gave to regions and his social and political personality. Habib Mohammed has attended the event and has the following report.
Mauritian panel for the late Prime Minister Meles Zenawi was aimed to sustain his legacy to the coming generation by assessing his major contribution to the country's development over the years, while presenting Meles' role in the financial and economic affairs of the nation. Minister of Finance and Economic Development Sofiane Ahmed said he categorized his contribution into three periods. The first one is the role he played during the transitional government period from 1991 up to 1995. The minister described that period as a time where there were a high scarcity of goods and services in the country, as well as the basic infrastructure was destroyed due to war. The late Prime Minister's role was immense in bringing economic structural adjustments by bringing the economy to revive, creating market stabilization and bringing economic linkage with the outside world. As a result, he made it possible for a successful transformation from command economy to the free market economic system. In addition to his wisdom of adopting what's important to Ethiopia, his rational thinking and ability to convince powerful countries and international financial institutions were astonishing.
The issue of totally allowing privatization was quite unacceptable to the Ethiopian context because of its economic implication. This was due to his firm belief that the creation of a few billionaires would no longer bring sustainable contribution to the country's overall economic boom, and it would not ensure equal wealth distribution among citizens.
The second period the minister presented was from 1996 up to 2002. In this period, Meles was busy of designing detailed economic policies and strategies aimed to ensure the country's renaissance. This include capacity building, agricultural strategy and industrial development, among others. He mentioned implementation of those strategies was also another big challenge due to corruption and different wrong attitudes within the public. According to the minister, it was also during this period that the Ethio-Eritrean War happened, and the Prime Minister's role in designing the country's military strategy brought victory, making him an effective crisis manager. Sofiane Ahmed, in his presentation to the panel, also mentioned that the roles played by the late Prime Minister during the period from 2002 up to now. This is a period where a middle-income economic plan to the nation started to bring a good result. Increasing access to health, education and infrastructure development brought considerable achievement. The late Prime Minister designed detailed strategies on the role of the developmental state by accentuating the interests of Ethiopia and other African countries in the international stage. Sofiane, as a friend and colleague of the late Prime Minister, also mentioned the qualities of Meles Zenawi.
He was so patient in listening and understanding. He had the ability to look things thoroughly and with different perspective. He had the capacity to convince others based on rational thinking. More importantly, he had unwavering belief about his country's bright future.
Ayale Gobe, the Amhara state president, also presented to the panel the role of the Prime Minister in advancing regions. He said Meles believed that the source of growth for the country is its people. He also believed on the equality of nations, nationalities and peoples of Ethiopia through equal participation.
The country's constitution gave the ultimate power for the people, not for the federal government. That has a strong attachment with Meles' strong belief on his people and his democratic nature.
Azim Mesfin, president of Meles Foundation, also replied to questions raised from the panelists concerning the establishment of Meles Foundation.
The foundation is now at its early stage. The foundation aims to transfer Meles' thoughts and legacy to the coming generation. As a result, it needs a much concerted effort and intensive capacity to fulfill what it includes in its package.
She finally said she was proud to be his wife and vowed to work hard to realize the foundation.
The first-year memorial service for the late Prime Minister Meles Zenawi has been held in Jeddah. Ethiopians and Ethiopian origins, as well as Ethiopian Consul General Office employees there, took part in the event. Speaking on the occasion, Ethiopian Consul General in Jeddah, Zennebe Kebede, said that Meles dedicated his life to lift Ethiopians from backwardness and ensure that they benefit from development, peace and democracy. He said Meles was able to register remarkable results not only for his country but also for Africa as a whole through representing the continent in various international stages. Fund soliciting to support Meles Foundation was also part of the event, although an official program for that particular purpose is said to be organized in the near future. President of the Puntland, Abdurrahman Mohammed Mahmoud Farol, commended Ethiopia's role in facilitating last week's agreement between the federal government of Somalia and the interim Juba administration. He met with Prime Minister Hailemariam Desalegn in Addis Ababa on Tuesday to discuss ways to advance security and governance in Somalia. The talks also covered issues relating to the Somali Federal Constitution, to security and economic relations between Ethiopia and Puntland. Meanwhile, President of Puntland met Dr. Tedros Adhanom, Ethiopian Foreign Minister. President Farol thanked Dr. Tedros for the commitment and dedication he had shown in the negotiation process, which led to the breakthrough of the recent signing of the agreement between the Juba interim administration and the Somali federal government in Addis Ababa. President Farol praised Ethiopia's efforts to bring peace and security to the region. 25% of construction of the Grand Renaissance hydropower dam is complete. National Council's Media and Communication Directorate Director Fekadu Ketama said out of the 10.2 billion birr public pledge, 5.2 billion birr has so far been collected. Citizens in rural areas are backing up the project through engaging in watershed management and natural resource conservation activities. He further said that the Ethiopian diaspora have pressed ahead with their multifaceted support for the realization of the project. When the dam construction sees completion, the country's power consumption will shoot up by 65%, and about 3,500 megawatt excess electric power is targeted for sale to neighboring countries. In a bid to strengthen citizens' bond purchasing culture, reward-based bond purchasing as well as SMS and lottery draws will be among the multifaceted activities the National Council intends to carry out in the new year. Ethiopian Ministry of Education calls on higher education institutions to produce citizens who believe in peace, democracy and multiculturalism and effectively utilize technology. The second US-Ethiopian University Linkage Workshop that aims at establishing mutually beneficial relations was held in Addis Ababa on Wednesday. Lalu Itala reports.
In the 1960s, some US universities began establishing cooperation with Ethiopian universities to share knowledge and work on areas that benefit both sides. Since then, the universities have worked jointly in areas of research, curriculum and human resource development, among others. But now, the number of US universities that are desirous to establish a strong partnership with their Ethiopian counterparts has increased significantly. They are undertaking a workshop that helps to strengthen the partnership established. It is disclosed at the second US-Ethiopian Universities Linkage Workshop that creating integration among universities is fundamental to achieve multifaceted visions of respective bodies. Dr. Kaba Urgesa, Ethiopian State Minister of Education, said at the opening of the session that the government has given the attention for education.
In order to sustain and improve the results achieved so far, the government of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia has given due attention to education as a principal development sector. In particular, higher education is considered to ensure the need for trained and skilled manpower to produce citizens who believe in peace, democracy and multiculturalism and to effectively transform technology.
The minister expressed Ethiopian universities are committed to produce capable human resources who can achieve the nation's vision of eradicating poverty.
Our universities are committed to a big national mission in relation to producing capable human resources for the economy, without which growth and transformation of the nation is impossible. To realize this mission, it is wise to strengthen partnership with international universities like US universities to build themselves more in technology and human resources.
Tahra Voz, Cultural Affairs Officer from US Embassy in Ethiopia, said for her part, both sides can be benefited from the collaboration established.
I think that U.S. universities have a lot to offer Ethiopian universities. The real trick is trying to identify the perfect match to make sure that that is mutually beneficial and sustainable. Unfortunately, sometimes we see linkages start and then they falter. So one of the reasons that we're hosting this conference today is to give best practices on how do you establish that linkage and how do you maintain it.
She said currently the number of US universities that are interested to cement the bilateral relationship is on rise. Participants from Ethiopian higher universities for their part underscore that Ethiopia can be benefited in various areas from American institutions.
The new relationship that we are establishing has a different objective where we exchange our staff, will exchange our students, and then the university could benefit more through knowledge transfer, technology transfer.
Our experience with the American universities, especially with some of them as the most successful ones, because we are able to, secure opportunity for our staff to pursue their master's and PhD degree, which is part of the staff capacity building.
They have also expressed that they are undertaking various research activities that benefit the people in their respective areas.
I would say more than 50 projects which are currently in place, focusing mainly on agriculture, technology transfer, natural resource management, as well as in pastoral areas.
Our researchers and our community service providers are encouraged to invest either educationally in health, agriculture, whatever you call it, in those areas first of all.
After deep deliberation for 2 days, both sides are expected to sign memorandum of understanding to work together in developing competitive workforce.
Businesses have begun to sprout across Mogadishu in Somalia, pointing to the increased stability despite continued sporadic attacks by Islamic militants. A new taxi company revamps transport in Mogadishu as economic recovery begins to take root in the country. Abdo Tashita takes up Reuters file.
The streets of Mogadishu, Somalia's capital, were once considered the most dangerous in the world, but things have slowly begun to change. A new taxi service is among the many businesses that are cropping up across the city. The Mogadishu taxi company have been operating in the capital for 3 months now and were the first to bring the yellow cabs to Mogadishu after Al-Shabaab was driven out by a military offensive led by the African Union peacekeeping force. Manager of the Mogadishu taxi company, Suleiman Muhammad Daras, and his partners introduced the branded yellow and blue taxis and charged their clients $1 per kilometer.
We started with 25 cars and we have been working for 3 months. Taxis in Mogadishu used to charge a lot of money. For example, when we pick a passenger from Bakara market and take them to the airport, we charge them between $6 and $7, whereas they used to pay up to $30.
The taxi does not only ease the transport situation in the city and add color to the streets, but also serve as a source of employment for the country's young people. Wiping the dust off his taxi, Abdulrazak Muhammad waits for his next customer. Has been working for the company for about 2 months now. A former member of one of the many militia groups, Abdulrazak has traded his weapons for new wheels.
We all come from different backgrounds. Some have come from different countries and they used to be taxi drivers there. Now they have come back to practice their skills here. This company has enabled many youths who were not doing much to engage in gainful employment. If all the youths are employed, there wouldn't be problems in this country.
A majority of the drivers at the Mogadishu taxi company are young men who either own the cars or are renting them on a daily basis. They pay the company $25 a day, and whatever they make on top of that is theirs to keep. On a slow day, Abdulrazak makes close to $70 and cannot provide for his family. Across the city, different taxi companies can now be seen plying the streets, largely funded by remittances from the diaspora. Somalia is rebuilding from scratch. Just 10% of its roads are paved, while 95% of the country's 10 million people have no electricity. Abdulrazak Muhammad says he is optimistic about the future of Somalia.
When we look at Somalia now, I feel that the future looks good. Personally, I'm very optimistic.
That brings us to the end of the news. Thank you for watching.